How do you think you played?
I don't think I played good. I don't think I played good at all. I think it's a lot of things, we need to look at, during the week and go and just get comfortable even throwing routes, with Jerry and throwing routes with all those guys. So I think that was my first ball to him all year. But other than that, I just think overall we just got to go next week and understand so then we have a week to
his head up. I know there was one drive in which he kind of walked off, and I saw him. He was putting his head down. I know he was kind of thinking about, I know he wants to make the play. He wants to, have that game-changing drive because, he feels like he has that ability, and we've seen it. So, don't be discouraged from one drive or two drives. It's a good football team over there. So, just trying to keep him to keep his confidence high, and keep on chasing that standard in which he set. And we're going to continue to support him. He spoke after the game, and he wanted to pin it on himself and his performance, but we're not going to allow him to do that. It's a team game. So
what in the gridiron multiverse is going on right now? Myles Garrett just detonated the entire NFL timeline by speaking up about Shedeur Sanders, and the reaction has been louder than a stadium speaker glitch in the fourth quarter. This wasn't some simple handshake and drive home moment. This was a full-on spotlight grab with sideline tension sizzling like a broken power line. Did Myles just crown Shadur as the next big thing, call him out?
Hi, this is Mary Kay Cabot from Cleveland.com after the Browns' 23-16 loss to the Ravens. What a football game that was. It was really, really exciting for fans. Unfortunately for Browns fans, it did not go their way in the end, but it almost did. And of course, the big news of the day is the fact that Shedeur Sanders finally made his NFL debut. He couldn't pull it out in the end. He had 3 chances to throw a 25-yard game-tying or game-winning touchdown pass and wasn't able to pull it off. But I do really honestly think that Shedeur Sanders will do much, much better.
Or drop a comment so loaded it could shake a whole locker room. This story takes off fast, so buckle in. Shedeur Sanders sat there acting like the whole Browns versus Ravens meltdown was his fault alone, like he somehow caused every blown play and every defensive collapse, as if Baltimore didn't come in laser-focused like accountants tracking down unpaid invoices, and as if the Browns haven't spent the past decade treating quarterbacks like free hotel slippers. Use once, toss, replace. Shadur tried to shoulder everything, turning on the dramatic self-blame mode like a streaming series cliffhanger. But Myles? That man wasn't letting that fly. Absolutely not. Not on his field, not on his time, not while he's walking around built like the final level boss in every superhero movie. If Shadur wanted to blame himself for something, Myles probably would have accepted something normal, like apologizing for taking the last protein shake in the locker room fridge. But taking responsibility for a full franchise collapse? No way. A whole defensive meltdown. A whole organizational identity crisis. A whole storyline of confusion. Myles blocked that guilt like he was taking on a scrambling quarterback in the pocket. You could almost see him thinking,
How you doing?
How you doing?
Decent. First and foremost, I want to thank God for giving me the opportunity to get out there. That's all you could ask for, honestly. The chance to get out there, get your feet wet, to experience how it feels, to even be out there with the team, with the first group, with everybody. So I'm truly was excited.
I think everyone was surprised to see him go to the 5th round. He's come to camp and OTAs with a great attitude. He's a hardworking guy. He has a good head on his shoulders. He's always positive, always optimistic, always keeps a smile on his face. And, you like going to work with people.
You're not taking the heat that belongs to management. They train for this chaos. They practically have awards for it. Because if Myles Garrett knows anything besides how to throw grown men around like decorative throw pillows, it's spotting Browns-level quarterback mismanagement from a mile away. The franchise has a long-running QB program that honestly should be examined by scientists. 2 decades of evidence, dozens of quarterbacks, and the only consistent result is disappointment. Give this team Patrick Mahomes, and they'd somehow turn him into a backup wide receiver assistant coach in under 2 months. So when Shadur tried to step up and say, "It's my fault," Myles saw the trap instantly. He saw the setup, the system, the blame shift, loading up like an old-school computer struggling at 3 a.m. Shadur, with all that heart and weight on his shoulders, was sad, truly sad, and everyone in the building knew it. The locker room, The stadium workers, even the hot dog vendor outside could tell the Browns tossed Shedeur into the fire like someone who just learned how to drive being thrown into a Formula One car and told, "Go race, try your best, good luck."
Out and say, I feel for Shadur. I really do. He never thought in a million years this is the way he'd be born into the league. His draft is still, and always will be, I think. And I once upon a time saw a first-round pick fall in the draft because he was on the Pineapple Express with the videos showing about Larry B. Tunsil. Yeah. I thought that was the strangest draft I've ever seen of a one player, but that just lasted half a night. Shedur's, as we know, lasted 3 days, to the point where even my mom is asking, what's up with Dion?
Imagine being part of a system that treats quarterbacks like cheap rechargeable batteries. Use them, drain them, toss them, repeat, then acting shocked when the performance isn't perfect. But sure, blame Shadur. Blame the new guy. Blame the only person who still believes getting drafted is a blessing instead of the opening chapter of NFL mental warfare. Myles Garrett wasn't watching another young quarterback walk the plank just because the PR team needed someone to pin the loss on. He's seen this storyline before. Front row, VIP seating, loyalty card, and all. He wasn't letting Shadur fall into the same mess of a system that can't teach quarterbacks, can't protect quarterbacks, can't support quarterbacks, and historically can't even identify quarterbacks. And Shedur's sadness wasn't about ego or theatrics. It came from someone who actually cares. Someone who wants to grow.
I just think Shedeur handled everything that comes with first and false start taking over versus a Ravens team.
Yeah, listen, we trust all of our guys. We trust our guys to perform. He's no different, and playing a backup quarterback role, as we've talked about over the years, that's tough to come in there. But we trust him. I know there's things that he's going to want to do better, but that's why we work.
Someone who internalizes every loss because he still has hope. And hope in Cleveland? That's the most explosive substance in the whole building. He didn't even need to speak. The raised brow, the head tilt, the silent stare from Myles Garrett said everything louder than words could. The message was basically telepathic. Stop this right now. This storyline has played out way too many times in Cleveland, and Myles wasn't letting Shedeur Sanders become the next tragic season documentary headline. If the Browns organization could give a statement, it would sound polished on the outside. Wow, Shedeur is so accountable, so mature, such a leader, while secretly filling out paperwork to make him the official scapegoat for everything from turnovers to parking lot issues. And Myles knew it.
Hop on here and talk about Shedeur Sanders and not what you think. The performance wasn't great. It needs to get better. He didn't have any help. Here's what I do want to say. And Luke McCown, Brian Hoyer, backup quarterbacks unite, right? Like, I feel like I'm very well placed to talk about this. Luke McCown sent out a tweet earlier. I'm gonna try to put it here. It's gonna be a lot of different parts. Just keep me going. Pretty much outlining everything that goes on within a backup quarterback's life, and just exactly what Shedeur Sanders, or really any backup, forget about just Shadur for a second, any backup quarterback.
That's exactly why he pulled the plug on Shedur's self-blame moment. He wasn't letting a rookie who hasn't even been fully integrated into the system yet walk around acting like he caused every issue on the field. Shadur wanted to play superhero, ready to carry the entire franchise on his back, cape and all. But Myles wasn't letting him do it because in Cleveland, heroes don't get sequels. They get blamed, benched, and forgotten. So what did Garrett do instead? He turned the spotlight toward the infrastructure, not the fans, not the refs, not one single player. The system. The messy, shaky, unpredictable system. And the best part?
Rate his performance, it's probably like a D-. There's context to that, though. Let's not freak out. I also understand he's gotten very few, if any, reps in practice. He hasn't played with any of these starters. It's a super tough situation to come in cold off the bench in a game that you weren't expected to play in against the Ravens. You know, you're not playing against scrubs. So it's a tough spot. There's reasons for the struggle, but there's no denying it wasn't a great performance. Now, where it differs from like watching Dylan Gabriel play, one, he already has a longer pass play than Dylan Gabriel has.
Shadur tried to look tough and responsible, while Myles was low-key trying to keep him from becoming emotionally wiped out. The contrast was wild. One guy wanting to take on the world, and the other trying to make sure he doesn't break himself in the process. Just like that, Shadur went from trying to be the self-blamed villain to a protected rookie. Not coddled, protected. Garrett wasn't telling him he's perfect. He was telling him he has to get better without taking on the entire history of Cleveland's quarterback mistakes like some kind of spiritual backpack. Because once you start apologizing for problems you didn't create, You turn into a walking apology machine, and Garrett had no interest in watching another young quarterback get emotionally burnt out. Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Myles stepping in wasn't about showing off or ego. It was experience. It was a veteran who has lived through this script too many times, refusing to let it replay again. He stood up for Shadur not because he's overly sentimental, but because he knows exactly how the Browns operate. He knows the conveyor belt of quarterbacks, the warning signs, the way the organization quietly lets young players burn out while pretending everything is fine.
Sanders completed 4 passes. He was 4 for 16 for less than 50 yards. He is now the lowest rated quarterback in the history of the NFL. That is a fact, with a 13.5 rating. If you're a Shedeur fan, I'm telling you right now, if your rhetoric today is, yo, it's messed up, man. It's messed up. Yo, that's not, he didn't get a fair crack. No, he did. He did. From my main man, Shannon Sharp, to Ocho Cinco, to
Josina Anderson,
who's like on his payroll, it seems like, right?
Yeah.
You can't defend what he did yesterday.
And he knows the moment a rookie tries to play hero for an issue he didn't create. The crash comes right after. Every franchise has its culture. Some build dynasties, some nurture talent. And then there's Cleveland, a historic place where quarterbacks are forged in frustration and only escape through trades, retirement, or pure luck. Shadur was seconds away from sacrificing himself to protect that legacy of chaos, and Myles Garrett shut it down with the speed of someone unplugging a game console during a losing match. Because whether people like it or not, the future doesn't depend on Shadur apologizing. It depends on the Browns actually developing him, actually training him, protecting him, supporting him, which honestly might be the biggest challenge in the entire NFL. They haven't done that consistently since flip phones were mainstream.
And that's probably going to happen this week as they head out to face the Raiders in Las Vegas, because Dylan Gabriel is in the concussion protocol, and I just think there's a very, very good chance that Shedeur Sanders is going to start this game. Now, if Dylan clears, he'll be back out there. But I think at this point, that is a long shot. So what needs to happen? Shadur needs to get into practice and take his first practice snaps with the first team offense. He hasn't done that before. We've been harping on it all season long that he has taken no reps with those starters. So that's the first thing that will happen. And then they will devise a game plan that will maximize his strengths and help him to...
So Myles stepped in as the emotional bodyguard, patrolling the perimeter and blocking guilt before it could land. You can lose games, you can rebuild, you can fix mistakes. But the one thing Myles refuses to accept is the Browns' old habit of letting a young quarterback self-destruct for convenience. He's not allowing it. Not this week, not this season, not with Shadur. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what Cleveland has been missing. A human firewall who blocks the blame game with the same force he uses to shut down running backs. He wanted responsibility the way kids want candy, running toward it like it was the prize of the day. It was almost adorable in the most tragic football kind of way. Meanwhile, Myles Garrett watched him with the expression of a veteran who's seen rookies chew on emotional ice cubes before, and he wasn't letting Shedeur Sanders reach that breaking point. Think of it like this. Shadur is that student who volunteers to stay after class even when he didn't say a single word during the lecture. The Browns are the teacher assigning extra essays like it's a hobby. And Myles is the guy in the back finally standing up saying, nope, not happening. We are not turning this into another quarterback funeral.
Anything you want about Shedeur Sanders' debut in the NFL. But let me just say, for one, the Ravens, even though they're 4-5, they're a great team nonetheless. So that's one. But then two, you expect this dude to ball out in his debut, even though he's been sat all this time. Very smart, okay. But not only that, people are really acting like he did this bad. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a terrible stat line. But let me just put it out there that there were at least 3 passes that would have been key in their game-winning drive that his receivers literally had in his chest and arm and hand and literally dropped it. Easiest routine catches you can.
And make no mistake, Garrett isn't pretending the game went well. He knows it was rough. He knows the loss stung. He knows the film session is going to feel like watching security footage of yourself getting a bad haircut. But he also knows you don't build a quarterback by letting him sit in misery. You build him by treating him like an investment, steady development, real coaching, real support, instead of dumping every mistake on his shoulders. The Browns historically flip that formula. They hand a quarterback the playbook, cross their fingers, switch off the lights, hope for a miracle, and act shocked when chaos shows up. Myles stepping in was the emotional equivalent of tapping the brakes right before the car hits a wall. A reminder that effort doesn't equal blame, and that accountability isn't about destroying yourself to look like a leader. That's the underrated part of the whole moment. Myles wasn't rejecting responsibility, he was teaching balance. Because there's a huge difference between owning your part and self-destruction. And Garrett wasn't letting Shadur cross that line. And guess what? The entire locker room felt it. Teammates noticed. People listened.
Now, who are we blaming? Is it Shedeur Sanders not looking prepared, or perhaps maybe the Browns not having him well enough prepared?
I'm definitely blaming Kevin Stefanski and his offensive coordinator. What the hell is going on? You know what? Listen, you're the QB too. Shouldn't you have reps? Correct me if I'm wrong. Listen, we watched a lot of quarterback play over the years. We've seen people inept. We understand limited skill level and stuff like that. What's rare to see is a quarterback that looked grossly ill-prepared.
When a vet like Myles Garrett puts a shield around his quarterback, that becomes the tone of the team. Suddenly, the environment shifts from let Shadur drown in guilt to we lost together. You could almost hear the organization freezing in confusion because no PR department wants to admit that blame spreads fast. Once the quarterback starts taking all of it, everyone else steps back. Coaches get quieter, management nods along, and fans start believing the narrative. And suddenly, the whole structural mess becomes one guy's burden. That's how quarterback careers get crushed before they ever get the chance to bloom. Garrett refused to let that script run again. Shadur is the type of guy who would apologize for the scoreboard font if you let him. Time will reveal whether the Browns actually develop him or fall back into their classic patterns. But one thing has changed. Someone on the inside is finally challenging the cycle.
Say the first time that Shedeur Sanders had taken a snap with the starters, with the ones, was in this game, is malpractice. At no point in time, and this is what I said, Ocho, so at no point in time, so you don't think Dylan Gabriel could possibly get hurt. He can't possibly bring a knee, bring a shoulder, get concussion. There's no possible way anything could possibly go wrong that you want to get Shadur like 1 rep with the ones, 2 reps with the ones. I ain't saying split it 50-50. I understand that. But even when John was taking the majority of the reps, John, if we did 10 reps in a period, the backup was
someone who's played long enough to know that potential doesn't grow under pressure alone. It needs time, stability, and protection, not guilt, not exhaustion, not media storms. And maybe that's where the shift begins. Not in some dramatic speech, not in a teary post-game interview, not in a perfectly rehearsed press conference. It starts quietly, with one veteran telling a rookie he doesn't need to destroy himself just to prove he cares. Shadur will get better. He'll train, he'll learn, he'll make sharper decisions, and he'll take real accountability when it truly belongs to him, but he'll do it without carrying the ghost of the entire franchise on his back, because Myles Garrett made sure of that. Sometimes progress doesn't come with fireworks. Sometimes it shows up when someone strong enough to carry the blame chooses not to. And someone young enough to accept the blame learns that he doesn't have to. That's where the story shifts. That's where things get interesting. And that's the exact point where Cleveland's future stops looking cursed and finally starts looking possible. If you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe.